As you guys know, Disney Channel has amazing original movies that they used to make all the time that I think now has been transformed more into Disney Plus original movies and isn't as often, but Disney Channel produced a lot of our childhood films that I think were really great coming of age movies that don't get talked about. First, I do want to talk about Galleria for a second, and I want to talk about the Cheetah Girls, specifically all the Cheetah Girls movies, but specifically Cheetah Girls and the Cheetah Girls 2. Galleria was, I would genuinely say, maybe the leader of the group, and then we have Aqua and Dorinda, who kind of seemed like they joined the group a little bit later on. In the first movie, they kind of show a little bit of details that kind of like make us insinuate that Chanel and Galleria kind of are a duo within this group. You know, every group, especially a trio, has a duo. And I think that Chanel and Galleria was that duo. They obviously were closer, they had better bonds, and I think those two were actually passionate about music in different ways, with Chanel being more passionate about the singing side and the vocals, and Galleria being more, into practicing, making music, making songs, like having a vision and having it come to life, kind of leading. Like without her, I think the group never would have really been a thing. And I think the third movie proves our points a lot. And I do want to touch into the third movie because even though it had a quote on happy ending, it didn't have the happiest ending in my personal opinion. I feel like that ending was given because at that time Disney Channel still did not know how to make movies where it was okay to lose. Shout out to Camp Rock 2, where we actually, for I think the first time on Disney Channel specifically, saw, the protagonist lose. And even though in the end they had to make it up with the whole Camp Rock ended up having a bunch of new people, like I hated that part because in real life you just lose. A lot of people want to be famous, they want to have that talent. So it makes sense that after winning and seeing how hard that Camp Star was being worked, a lot of people would want to send their children there, or a lot of kids might want to go there knowing there's a better chance of commercial success. The reason why I bring in Camp Rock is because I think Camp Star has a lot of the attitude that Galleria has. Like Galleria would go to Camp Star, and Dorinda and Aqua would be in Camp Rock. They would be there. Chanel would just kind of be wherever. Chanel always kind of floated around between the groups and just did whatever. She would be the Tess. Like, I'm here one day, but when it suits me, I'm over here. And I'm definitely going to bring up Chanel a lot in this video because I think that Chanel kind of gets away with being like a fence sitter. She never 100% knew where she was going to lie. And it's either you think what Galleria is doing is wrong and you want to stand up for it, or you don't. And I feel like she couldn't be that scared of Galleria. She had known her for almost all her life. So it was very iffy characterization of that character, but very true to her character as we've seen through all the movies, even the third movie with her being hesitant to take something that's good for her, something that she had earned. So I'm going to dive into why I believe Galleria was not wrong. She clocked a lot of the other girls' teeth. Sorry, they were lazy, they were boring, and they were man obsessed. Now, this doesn't mean that Galleria didn't have a man. She was like, oh my God, he was cute. Of course, Barcelona boy with the guitar, who they kind of had this little romantic, flirty connection that never really expanded past her flirting with him and him kind of flirting back with the music and the guitar. But she always kept her eye on the goal. She knew what she was in Spain for. The third movie confirmed everything that Galleria was saying about them. Like, people really, and mind you, I think the third movie is great. Like, especially without Raven, I think it allowed us to get to know other characters a bit more. So it was great for kind of getting to know maybe Dorinda a little bit more, or Aqua, and especially Chanel. But I always feel like Chanel was a main leading girl with Galleria. So everything we knew about her, I feel like, was wrapped up already within the second movie. But Galleria was never wrong in the sense of thinking that the girls were lazy. And in the first movie, she clocks this, but she clocks this in a way where it comes off as cruel or being a dictator. Like, she kind of comes across as, oh, I'm going to run the group. Not like, oh, I'm the natural leader, like Kendall from Big Time Rush on that show. It comes across like it's my way or the highway. And she didn't realize that when you have a big group like that, it's very easy to be overthrown if all the girls are against you, which ended up happening in the first film.
Putin, we've got a talent show.
Well, are we gonna do it or not? Because I've got somewhere to be.
Then go on, Dorinda. We're gonna be doing music anyway, so since you mostly dance.
You know what? You're right. That is what I mostly do.
Oh, girl, wait. I got you something. Wait a second, Dorinda. Look at this. I got you these cute little clippings of outfits, which you could probably put together and hook it up for the next time we see Jackal. Hey, Doe. Take it, because it's not optional.
And, where exactly are you gonna go get your personality makeover? Because I forgot.
Oh, hold it down with the whack attack, Doe. We love you, okay? We just don't want you to look toe up and janky next time you see Jackal.
Torn up? How about this for torn up?
Whoa. Some people just don't know how they're coming off to others. She'll thank me in the long run.
Yeah.
Where I think Galleria didn't go wrong, or where I think the girl should have clocked her, when she was being rude, that's when she should have been clocked. When she was calling them poor and untalented and unfocused in the first movie, that's when she should have been clocked. She should have not been clocked when they were getting offered a shiesty or a weird music contract. That is where they completely lost me. And I don't know if it's bad writing, I don't know. But I'm just over here like, how is she wrong because she doesn't want to sell out and make you guys do kids and animal music? Like, that's not what the Cheetah Girls was. And she was right in that characterization. She was right in that ideology to think that. So her saying, you know, let's bounce, and the other girls going like, you didn't even ask our opinion. You didn't even ask our opinion. I'm not going to be disrespectful, but I even agreed with Galleria there. What is there to discuss? Like, especially since a lot of the girls in the group, Aqua, even Chanel, are a little bit bougie, they're not going to want to run around with animal mask on. Like, that whole thing was very weird. The storyline for the first movie was weird, but I do feel like it was needed for Galleria to learn a lesson about being a natural leader. A leader leads, but they lead with this type of like aura. Like, they lead with this type of persona. And I feel like she desperately needed the first movie to learn. Moving on to Cheetah Girls 2, when the girls eventually end up going to Spain because of Chanel and her mom and her stepdad, I think pending an engagement, the Cheetah Girls end up auditioning for this music festival competition. And, you know, they end up going to Spain and they end up there. And while they're in Spain, a whole pack of distractions pop up that kind of reminded me why Galleria was the way she was in the first movie. We have Dorinda running off with some man she does not know, which is fine. Like, if you're actually coming up with choreography and you're coming up with things to do, it makes sense that you're going to go with him. But she wasn't doing anything for the Cheetah Girls. It was just a free vacation for her to go flirt. And what's so funny and hilarious, the man was working on choreography. He was working with his associates. He was at his hobby. He was doing what he was meant to do. So you running to follow him, to me, always was weird behavior, because she ran to follow this man to a place where, like, that's his living. That was his hobby. Whatever you're calling it, that's where he was supposed to be at that time. He did not ditch anybody for you. Like, even when that whole dinner scene happened with Dorinda and her Spain boyfriend, you know, he ended up ditching them because he was scared to tell her that he was actually poor. You know, he didn't ditch them because, oh, I wanted to make time for her. That's not what it was, the way Dorinda was ditching the rest of the girls. Then we have Aqua. Aqua, in my personal opinion, had the most reasoning to kind of be a little bit in and out, because honestly, Aqua was a little bit of a non-factor. Like, she didn't really have that many solo parts. She had like a cute little solo dance number that even outshined Dorinda, but other than that, like, there's not a specific specialty that she does. Like, Aqua like was doing fashion this movie, but in the first movie she's doing something else. In the third movie, apparently she's this actor. Like, they changed Aqua's character so much, and I think that's because in the original Cheetah Girls, the book, Aqua is actually a twin, and the twins, I think, represent Aqua in each different movie, which is why in each movie Aqua seems like a completely different character, because I think they're trying to fit two twin characters with their traits into one character, and hoped that the audience at home would not notice that Aqua from the first, second, and third movie are completely different people. Moving on, we do have Chanel. My biggest problem in this movie was with Chanel, and I think Galleria had the most to kind of be irritated with for Chanel, because they all agreed that they're coming here, they're taking this trip on behalf of, her soon-to-be stepdad. So of course Galleria is thinking like, oh my god, they let us have a place to stay, we're here, we're about our business, we're going to win this competition. I begged my mother to let me come here in exchange, I'm going to go do classes. Like, Galleria made a deal with her mother to even be there. So it was definitely interesting to see how Chanel treated her. And I do want to jump into these dynamics that I do think that are real in real life. Chanel having the girl Belinda, I don't remember what her name is in the movie. I want to say her name in the movie is Belinda, but I don't think that it is. The fact that she was so quick to not listen to Galleria's concerns and was quick to go like, here you go again, you're controlling everything. You always do this where you got to control stuff, simply because Galleria said, hey girl, love you Belinda, but we got to practice our songs. Because why is Chanel helping Belinda practice her own songs? Chanel was not very intelligent. I'm so sorry. That's why the third movie is even a little unrealistic to me. That's because at the first sign of trouble, I truly do believe they would have fallen apart without Galleria. That's what I truly believe, because the first and second movie, it tracks. It tracks. Without Galleria and without really thinking about it, they would have possibly signed that shiesty contract with that man in the first movie. And without Galleria, they would have been off in Spain doing God knows what. Competition is only a few days away, and y'all don't even have the song rehearsed, but you're rehearsing another girl's song who's your competition that you met maybe last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't even think it was a full 2 weeks, to be honest. So to me, the girls always didn't have a sense of loyalty to the Cheetah Girls that Galleria had to the Cheetah Girls. And I hated that in the second movie, they tried to make her a villain. But what I really loved about the writers, and this is what lets me know that for Galleria, they kept her characterization the same, but they made her learn her lesson. In the second movie, when she's talking to her mom, when she's gonna buy that ticket to leave and go to the train station and meet up with her dad and go home, Galleria goes, this is not worth my friendship with the girls. Like, she's still thinking in her mind, when I go home, even if the Cheetah Girls is not a thing, I want to still be friends with Chanel and the other girls, especially Chanel. She specifically called out Chanel. She was just like, this is not worth it to me. This, like, our friendship is not worth this. I'm not going to control them. I'm not going to drag them back here. Like, I'm not going to do that. She means more to me than the competition. That is something in the first movie Galleria would have never said. And I think she learned her lesson. That's what I really appreciate about Cheetah Girls 2, because they did not let us forget the first movie. Like, it was very clear, even with the way Chanel was kind of disagreeing with Galleria. She was saying, you're doing this again, you always do this, you got to control everything. And Galleria just looks so hurt, because she's like, girl, I had learned my lesson from this. And even when she's talking to her mother, she's like, this competition is not worth the friendship I have with Chanel, ever. It'll never be worth that. And I appreciated that. I don't think Galleria gets enough appreciation because of her characterization in the first movie, but if anything, I think that she showed the most progression as a character, even without her being there in the third movie. Even in the third movie, her reasoning for not being there was concise with the second movie, when she had promised her mom she was going to take extra classes, like college readiness classes. It coincided with her characterization. Up until her arc ended in the third movie, everything was cohesive and concise with that character specifically, and I love the way that they wrote her. Everything about this group is so interesting to me in the third movie, because people blamed Galleria for a lot. They said she was bossy, she was mean, this, that, and the third, but she was needed. In the end, of One World, they all end up, you know, being featured in the film, but I think it takes them standing their ground, I believe. I'm going to be honest, I didn't get all the way to the end and I skipped a little bit of a couple parts, but I do believe that they kind of stood their ground, and I think Chanel was like, all the girls got to be in it or none of us are going to be in it. And I'm like, if this was Galleria, she would have figured that out the first scene. The first time it was said only one of you could be in that role, she would have said, Cheetahs, let's bounce, like she did previously. Like, that's what a leader does. Even with her being gone, they tried to pigeon or shoe in Chanel as the leader. Chanel was not a good leader. Her herself, I think it took a lot for her to even be like, all of us or none of us, because they wanted to be in fame so badly. It was kind of like, oh, if you take this role, it'll be a good name for all the Cheetahs. And I was just like, Raven or Galleria would have not let it even get this far. Like, it was just very interesting dynamics. And I make this video to kind of end it all with, Galleria was not wrong. Could she have went a better way with things in the first film? Absolutely. But she learned from that mistake. And in the second film, she was focused, ready to work. And I just feel like she's not given the dues. Galleria is not given her rightful dues as this leader of the Cheetah Girls. Sorry. She was the leader. She did keep them together. The third movie proved everything that I already knew. Rewatching it, because I hadn't rewatched it as a kid, because this is actually my least favorite Cheetah Girls film. It's my least favorite trilogy ever that Disney has made, which is surprising because Descendants 3 exists. But this is my least favorite trilogy because I feel like this is a problem that could have instantly been squashed, because we've seen it from the first movie with Raven saying, like, you know, you're going to take one cheetah. You're not going to take one cheetah. You're going to take all of us or none of us. And, you know, we're bouncing. This isn't our sound. This isn't our style. Our style isn't just one girl. Our style isn't we're changing our whole music. You're going to take us as us, or you're not going to take us at all. And I think that's a leader, which is exactly what Galleria was.
Oh, yeah. I see you hanging on to him, you're trying to pretend.